Welcome to our news and thank you for joining us. I'm Natalia Hall. Topping news tonight. Amid the ongoing unrest in Haiti, world leaders may be joining forces to do something about it. National Security Minister Wayne Monroe says troops stand ready to assist. Berthany McDermott has more.
If called upon, the Bahamas will send military officers to Haiti to assist Haitian law enforcement officers. National Security Minister Wayne Monroe confirming as much ahead of this week's cabinet meeting.
If that is the determination, the Defense Force will be ready, willing, and able to deploy. That is what we have them for. People get this impression that they just sit down doing nothing. They sit down preparing for deployments to protect the national interests of the Bahamas. The national interest of the Bahamas, overarchingly, is to see peace in this region.
The news comes after Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell said a resolution is being drafted by the United States that will be submitted to the United Nations. The focus will be on sending troops to Haiti. Haiti has been the home of civil unrest for months since its president was assassinated back in July 2021. This wouldn't be the first time the Bahamas assisted Haiti with clamping down on violence. Back in 1994, the Bahamas was a part of a peacekeeping mission where 141 troops were sent to Haiti to help.
The Haitian problem is a complex one. There's no point going in, and then when you leave, you do not have structures that lend for peace. And so that's been the problem. We sent in peacekeepers in 94, 96, and we're right back to this stage again.
The move comes after police officers were deployed to the Turks and Caicos Islands earlier this month. The Haiti and TCI matters comes at a time when law enforcement agencies are battling with manpower shortages. Monroe says this will require operational plans.
Most of our squadron is deployed to the southern Bahamas to prevent Haitians leaving Haiti coming up. So if you deploy men in Haiti that could stop Haitians hitting the water, wouldn't that relieve the pressure on the people who are guarding the southern regions of the Bahamas? Everything we do classically with our manpower is in the Bahamian national interest.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Thanks, Berthany. Well, cholera concerns rising across the country following the announcement of a confirmed case in the Bahamas last week. I spoke with Dr. Stacey Bevins, a clinical director for community health services in Grand Bahama, about how not only to spot it, but to also prevent it. She says that the most common cause of cholera is contaminated food or water.
If someone uses the bathroom and does not wash their hand, they can actually transfer the bacteria to the food. Also, in cases where water is not collected and preserved properly, then that water can contain stool or feces, and that feces can have the Vibrio cholera in bacteria, and this can cause the disease.
Dr. Bevins says cholera can impact both kids and adults, and for those with comorbidities, the disease may be more severe. The doctor is sharing these symptoms to look out for and is advising persons to seek treatment immediately if any appear, as she says symptoms can go from mild to severe within 12 hours.
The stool may appear pale or milky. The person may have fatigue, vomiting, diarrhea, dehydration. Now, as it gets severe or it becomes more severe, then the person can have what we call electrolyte imbalance because you're losing a lot of water.
She says do not eat raw or uncooked food, and when purchasing food, ensure that the environment is hygienic. For those who are caring for babies or adults who wear diapers, the doctor says you should also be very careful.
You must dispose of diapers properly. Do not just wrap them and throw them in the garbage so that dogs can pull them out or stuff like that, because then if that gets into the water source or anything, then we can have a spread.
And as for preventing the disease, she says drinking bottled water is key.
Frequent hand washing. Avoid street foods. We like to eat foods that are prepared by persons on the street, but we have to ask ourselves, where are they getting their water from? How often are they able to clean the space in which they're preparing the food?
A 30-year-old man is dead tonight after being struck by a car on Tonic Williams-Darlin Highway near Theodore Lane. Police press liaison officer Chrislyn Skippings confirming the fatality, saying the incident occurred around 7 this morning. Police say the Theodore Lane resident, who was in a wheelchair, was struck by a blue Nissan Note. The victim was transported to hospital where he died from his injuries. Now, police in the northern Bahamas have opened 3 drug investigations. The first arrest came shortly around 11 a.m. on Monday. Bimini police were patrolling Kayak Beach on Kings Highway when they saw a man on a scooter acting suspiciously. After a search, police say they found suspected marijuana and oxycodone pills. The South Bimini resident was arrested. The 2 other incidents unfolded in Abaco. The most recent happened around 8 p.m. on Monday as officers were at a home in Central Pines, where they found suspected marijuana. The 2 men were taken into police custody. An hour earlier, a team of officers from Operation Restoration were patrolling the George Albury dock in Marsh Harbor when they searched a man and found suspected marijuana. The Dundas Town resident was arrested. A 34-year-old Jamaican woman has been sentenced to 42 years in prison for the murder of her girlfriend last February. Nadisha Backford did not show any emotion as Justice Renee McKay handed down the sentence on Tuesday. Backford stabbed Lakeisha Mackey and slit her throat during a confrontation in the parking lot of the Mayfair Hotel on February 20, 2021. Now, despite medical intervention, Mackey died in hospital on February 22nd. 2021. Backford did not deny stabbing Mackey, but she claimed that she was acting in self-defense. The jury rejected this and convicted her of murder. Her lawyer, public defender Dorsey McPhee, said she will appeal both the conviction and the sentence. Well, we saw an overcast, wet day in the capital today. Meteorologist Greg Thompson has our latest conditions from in the Weather Center. Good evening, Greg.
Thanks, Natalia, and a happy Tuesday evening, everybody. And our first check on weather right now, temperatures in the mid-80s, 86 degrees with some intermittent clouds. We also have a few showers out there, so you could get a few sprinkles on you. Your winds out of the west-southwest at 7 miles per hour, and your feels-like temperature hanging out in the mid to upper 80s. On our satellite view, frontal boundary across central Florida with some showers and thunderstorms ahead of that prefrontal activity. Moves through the capital and the northwest Bahamas, now moving into the central Bahamas as we speak. Most of that activity will be pushing out towards the east, but we do have another batch of showers and thunderstorms in the Gulf of Mexico that's headed our way, all ahead of the front, which is expected to sag into the northwest Bahamas late tonight. By Wednesday morning, expected to be across the northwest Bahamas, and Thursday pushing into the central Bahamas. That's a quick look at our weather. Stick with us. A look at the tropics, and your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on our news, 1 in 4 Bahamians are making minimum wage. The labor director breaks down the dollars and cents of it. Plus, price control changes have been pushed back by a few days. We'll tell you why and how it may impact your pocketbook for the next 6 months. And the mission and motivation behind the founder of Families of All Murder Victims. We'll tell you how the National Honor recipient is driven to help others. Stay with us. A quarter of the country's workforce is on the lower end of the pay scale. That's according to Labor Director Robert Farquharson, who revealed an estimated 25% of employed residents are making minimum wage.
Between the public sector and the private sector, we estimate that those figures will be approximately 24 to 25%.
Now, Farquharson's revelation comes a week after Prime Minister Philip Davis announced in a national address that minimum wage would be increased to $260 a week in both the public and private sector. There has been pushback from some in the business community who say it will add to the already high cost of doing business. Farquharson had a response for that.
On August the 15th, 2015, the minimum wage in the country rose from $150 to $210. That was a 60% increase. We had scores and scores of employers threatened with the same talk. If you increase this, we can lay people off. If you do this, we can close the business down. That didn't happen. Very little termination took place. Really what happened was the reverse. because these same employers who are making these complaints now, they truly understand that the men and women who make the minimum wage, they will turn around and they will spend that same money back in the small and medium-sized businesses. And their revenue will increase.
Well, price control changes slated for October 17th have been delayed to Friday, October 21st, according to Economic Affairs Minister Michael Halkitis. Following a meeting with the Retail Grocers Association and the Prime Minister on Monday, Halkitis says government will get input from the association on the way forward.
Some grocers express the fact that they need time to change the prices on their shelves. And so we're saying, okay, we'll be cognizant of that. And so of course, if someone can do it more quickly, that's fine. But if it's taking some people a few days to do it, we're mindful of that.
Is there a new anticipated timeline?
This Friday.
For them to...
we want to have all of these issues resolved, their concerns and our concerns resolved by this Friday.
Halkitis is making it clear that the rollout will not be pushed back any further than Friday, adding the initiatives are in place for 6 months and will be reviewed at that time. In a national address last week, Prime Minister Philip Davis announced the addition of 38 new items to the price control list. But that decision did not sit well with the association, which indicated its members will not implement the changes. Retailers say the changes may come with layoffs and store closures.
We're sure that there is a middle ground that we can reach. We don't see this leading to, massive business closures. We do not see that. But we've asked the associations to, provide us some numbers that we can look at. But we don't anticipate that. We think it's reasonable what we're proposing.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When our speaking up and speaking out after being frustrated over the press secretary's claim that women's groups have been silent.
Plus, coming up in Sports for Tonight, we'll tell you how our men's and ladies beach soccer teams hope to do well at the upcoming Alive Beach Soccer Tournament. It's all coming up in sports.
Plus, from tragedy to ministry, the story behind families of all murder victims and its founder. The details when our news returns. This is our news. Welcome back. Comments made by the Office of the Prime Minister Press Secretary Clint Watson last week still not sitting well with many rights activists, especially those who make it their mission to fight for the rights of women. They are speaking out, and our Marlena Leonard has their comments in this report.
A lot of the groups are quiet. A lot of the activist groups and the groups that protect women, where are your voices?
Founder and president of Rise Bahamas, Janelle Burrows, tells us how this comment made her feel.
Well, it's frustrating because a lot of time people might not really take advocates and activists as seriously as they would a politician or someone in a position of power.
And Burrows says there's certainly been consistent and vocal activity from groups around the Bahamas regarding marital rape.
In particular, the Bahamas Crisis Center for at least a decade has been championing this move to better protect spouses. Rise Bahamas primarily advocates for child protection, but we believe firmly that in order to protect children, we need to ensure that their parents have protection under the law as well.
Some of the loudest voices heard in the marital rape law debate have come from male leaders of Bahamian churches. But Burrows reminds us that's not how laws are made.
We're not in a theocracy, so we shouldn't be dictated to in terms of protection under the the law by any religious grouping. A spouse can face legal penalties for abusing their partner, so the same should apply in the context of rape. Simply enough. It's not rocket science.
Burroughs says Rise Bahamas has contributed thoughts on the changes to legislation.
Rise Bahamas has actually submitted proposed changes to the law related to the sex offender registry, which falls under the Marcos law, which is something that we've been advocating for the past 8 years. And we've also suggested changes to the Sexual Offenses Act, but not specific to the marital rape legislation.
And for those who aren't sure how they can make a difference, Burroughs says the opportunities presented by social media make activism easier than ever.
There's no excuse nowadays not to be an active citizen and an involved citizen and someone who, in some way, shape, or fashion, speaks up. It's not to demean anybody or fly in the face of convention necessarily. It's just to ensure that as many people as possible are protected under the law.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
And Press Secretary Clint Watson issuing an apology late this evening. It says, last week, I made an inaccurate comment about the efforts of women's rights in our country. I sincerely apologize. It continues, I should have been more aware of their active involvement in the consultation process. The Attorney General has briefed me on the ongoing stakeholder meetings regarding draft legislation. Now, you can read the entire statement by visiting our social media pages or on ournews.bs. Well, the Bahamas is set to host a 3-day beach soccer tournament this weekend. Organizers in anticipation of a great event, Marcellus Hall tells us more in sports. Marcellus?
All right, thanks, Natalia. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. This coming weekend should be an exciting one for beach soccer fans. That's because the Alive Beach Soccer Tournament will take place beginning Friday, running right through Sunday. Now, Bahamas will have 2 teams all taking part in the event. Should be a pretty good time. Let's take a look. With the Bahamas now set to host the Alive Beach Soccer Tournament this coming weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at the Beach Soccer Arena, it seems as if plans are going extremely well. In fact, Technical Director Bruce Swan says it's been well received. The excitement is building.
We have 4 countries, but different teams. We have the men, they will be playing Trinidad on Friday night, and then they play Costa Rica, and then they close off on Sunday with Colombia. And on the women's side, we have our women, they will be playing Saturday night, they play Turks and Caicos, and on Sunday they play Trinidad. And we expect it to be very competitive. The women program have been growing strong. They only recently really started to play, but they had a good showing in El Salvador earlier this year where they compete with El Salvador, USA, and that was excellent for them. And the men played an all-star team earlier up in the year from the USA, and they did a wonderful job there, winning the games that they played. So we're all fired up and ready to go, and fans can expect Bahamas to do excellent in the tournament.
Now, Swan saying that with ladies being introduced into the equation, that too has been well received, and he expects those women to do extremely well once competition gets underway.
The women squad has been growing, the training has been growing. Additionally, come next year summer, we'll be adding the under-15s to the beach soccer competition, our local competition, together with the seniors on both the male and female side of things. So just trying to expand the sport and create a new avenue for our players to play.
And that is your look at sports here on this Tuesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Italia.
There's more to come on Our News, including the woman behind a ministry formed out of tragedy, the story of Candy Gibson, a recent recipient of a national honor. Thunderstorms and possibly a cool down of temperatures this week. Your extended forecast is coming up when Our News returns. Welcome back to Our News. Thunderstorms moving across the country this week. Greg is back in the Weather Center with a look ahead. Greg?
Thanks, Natalia, and welcome everybody back for our second look at weather. In the tropics, everything is quiet out there, but like I said, we had a very active early portion, 11 named storms, and the tropics remaining quiet. A couple of tropical waves out there, but nothing showing any organization at this time. Locally across our area, we do have a frontal boundary that's moving across central Florida. A lot of showers and thunderstorms ahead of that affected the northwest Bahamas earlier today. It's now moving into the central Bahamas, but there's a batch of showers and thunderstorms in the Gulf of Mexico that is also headed our way. So we're looking at some more showers and thunderstorms late tonight and into tomorrow as this front sags towards the south. Should get into the northwest Bahamas early tomorrow and then pushing through to the central Bahamas by Thursday morning, where it's expected to stall and weaken. We do expect a nice change in the atmosphere once this frontal boundary pushes through. The northwest Bahamas especially will see some nice cooler temperatures as well as some drier conditions, with central and southeast Bahamas still seeing some clouds and some isolated showers. Boating forecast for the northwestern Bahamas tonight to tomorrow. We put up a small craft caution that should come into effect late tonight once that frontal boundary pushes through. Southwesterly winds ahead of the front, but be shifting northwest to north at 15 to 20 knots. Your seas will be running 2 to 4 feet tonight, but they will be building 6 feet up to 6 feet tomorrow. Your low tide will be at 9:48 tonight. For the central and southeast Bahamas, south to southwesterly winds at 10 to 15 knots, and your wave heights running 2 to 4 feet over open waters. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your 7-day planner, looking for some showers and some isolated thunderstorms with that frontal boundary sagging into our area tonight and into tomorrow, and that will continue through Friday. We expect conditions to gradually improve by the weekend, so we're looking at less chances for some showers, but we expect another front by next week. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe night, everybody.
Thanks, Greg. She has a passion for those less fortunate. She's a voice for the voiceless, and she was among a number of Bahamians honored for their contributions to society. Tonight, we highlight one of the recipients of the National Honors of Merit, Candy Gibson. Jamila Mizik has her story.
You may have seen her advocating for families throughout the community, but do you know her story? 46-year-old Candy Gibson is a woman who wears many hats. The director of Families of All Murder Victims, a nonprofit organization, says her ministry was birthed after her 2 brothers were murdered only 8 months apart.
I was like, Mommy, if this is what we're going through, imagine the amount of other families going through the same thing, their loved one getting killed, leaving kids with not sufficient contribution or no contribution at all. I want to give God all the honor and all the praise that He allowed pain to birth my ministry.
Since forming FOAM some 10 years ago, Gibson says her ministry has rebranded, not only assisting the families of murder victims, but housing men and women, as well as running a full community center to assist persons with job placement, clothing, and grocery assistance. This past National Heroes Day, Gibson was among many others to be recognized with national honors. Her work in the community making her the recipient of the Order of Merit. She says when she got the call, she was low in spirit and discouraged.
I was like, Candy, 10 years you battling with FOAM, 10 years every month you gotta wonder how you can pay this bill.
She says receiving the honor motivated her to press on, but what makes her work most fulfilling is helping those in need.
At the end of the day, your good work, you mightn't see officially the money's in your hand, but people died, never got acknowledged in life for what they did. And hey, Candy, you are young, you're 46, and you actually getting acknowledged now for the contributions that you've made to try see the betterment of your Bahama land.
Gibson continues to do work in New Providence and Grand Bahama. The mother, Justice of the Peace, and advocate is thanking the National Honors Committee for the award, as well as her family for their support, and of course those who continue to pour into her ministry. She says her heart for people and her passion will keep her going. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
What a great story. Thanks, Jamila, and thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.